Balulwa statement lesi saka baba uAbsalom Mzungu bokubaba ka Constable Mzungu ke kukhona la malana no paragraph 3 lapho lokhona ukuthi umbhekisini lo bathi ubaba kaZungu wathola ke ulwazi kuyena ke akuyena umuntu onelungelo mhlawumbe noma oselungelweni lokuthi kade kuye kade akhuluma lo lwazi loluke kepha ulwazi lolu walithola komunye umuntu bambiza ukuthi untanzi bese ufakazi athi yebo ngiyakuvuma lokho kunjalo wakhuluma lokho kepha ke wathi umsola wokuqala futhi nomsola wesibili ke banesandla ekushoneni kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
That is what is contained in the statement, Brigadier. And for you to say that is what Mpekiseni is saying, that accused number 1 and 2 were involved in the commission of this offense is a misnomer, because he says in the statement, I got that information from this other Ntanzi. In other words, the originator or the source of this information, it's not him Mpekiseni, but it is this other Ntanzi.
But yebo lanoma kunjalo ke kepha ukhumbule khona njalo ukuthi umbhekiseni lo yena ke kuntanzi ke akuyena umuntu olethe ulwazi malana nodaba lwestatement lesi kepha ke omunye untanzi olethe ulwazi elethela kumbheki noma itshela umbhekiseni ulwazi loloko bese kumbhekiseni watshela ke ubaba kaZungu ke lapho kuZungu senior bambiza ngokuthi kuZungu senior ukuthi umsola wokuqala futhi umsola wesibili banesandla kulodlana.
No, but my lord, that's not what I said. The person who made a statement to me is Absalom Mzungu. The name of Mpekiseni came as to when the question was asked to me whether Mr. Absalom Mzungu was the source of this information. And I said, I do recall that there was another person, insofar as I could recall. And that's how we got to Mpekiseni. So there's no assertion from me that I said Mr. Mpekiseni is the source. I said, I remember that there was another person, and we spoke to that person, and that person was not willing to come forward in fearful of his life, my lord.
Athi yebo noma kunjalo kepha ngisakhumula ukuthi lo mbuzo waqhamuka ngesikhathi kade abuza kubaba ka Constable Zungu ukuthi ngabe uye yini umnini olwazi loluke bese wathena kubaba ka Constable Zungu cha yena ke umnini uthizeni olwazi lolu kepha ulwazi olwaluzwa ke komunye umuntu kulapha aqhamuka khona ke igama lomlisa uthizeni bambiza ngokuthi umbhekiseni umtanzi.
Now, would you agree with me then that paragraph 3 Mpekiseni, in fact, Absalom Zungu the senior says Mpekiseni told him that he got this information from another Ntanzi?
Ngabe kuvuma yini ukuthi ubaba ka Constable Zungu Absalom Zungu uyena ke wakutshela ukuthi ulwazi lolu wena ke walithola kumbhekiseni Ntanzi kepha ke umbhekiseni Ntanzi naye kukhona la walwazwa khona ke malana nalolu daba?
Yes, I'm not denying it, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi yebo angikuphiki ke lokho.
Thank you, my lord. Back to what the court asked me on whether or not this statement should stand. Now, on the trajectory of the information that is narrated in the statement here, it is undoubtedly clear that it is a trail of hearsay. It is a trail of hearsay. So, and hearsay is not admissible, my lord. So, as it is, this statement, it carries no value unless this other Ntanzi can come and testify and say, I am the originator of this information and I'm aware under what circumstances these assertions were made. Then the matter must just die there, my lord. In other words, the statement carries no value with regard to the assertions that are contained in here that accused number 1 and number 2 were involved in the commission of this offense. So it's a trail of hearsay. That will be my submission.
Mr. Valoi, what's your view?
As the court please, my lord, the court will recall that at the inception of the evidence of Brigadier Gininda, we were at pains to avoid this hearsay evidence. In fact, if I recall, the evidence of Brigadier Gininda was to the effect that he received a report from Mr. Absalom Mzungu, because as court officials we are aware that we may not lead hearsay evidence, but my late colleague then went and introduced the hearsay evidence, and we cannot stop him. If a party wishes to introduce hearsay evidence, then they must, lie on the bet that they make. And Mr. Mgomezule has introduced hearsay evidence at his own accord, well aware what the legal position is. He must, the defense must therefore, my lord, sleep on the bet that they've made. It cannot be retracted, it's on record. We submit, my lord, that it has to remain on record. The statement is already admitted, despite the fact that it's, as Advocate Nisi pointed out, it's triple hearsay evidence. I mean, that's why we didn't call Mr. Zungu Senior to testify, as his evidence, according to Exhibit Triple U, amounts to triple hearsay evidence.
Okay, you have to address me at the end of the case, Mr. Baloi and Mr. Nisi, okay?
As it is the court, my lord.
Yeah.
I just pray that I don't forget that.
Hello?
I'm saying I will just pray that I don't forget what the
No,
court
me, I
is-
won't forget.
Yes, my lord. Thank you, my lord.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, we would not have requested that this statement be retracted, but the information contained therein be disregarded, my lord. It is evidence, of course. It cannot be retracted, but request that the information contained therein, on the basis of the fact that it is inadmissible, it should then be disregarded, my lord. As it pleases the court, my lord. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mala nodaba lolu statement ke kade yacela ke ummeli wakho ke mnumzana ukuthi inkosi enkantolo ke ingasamukeli statement lesi ngoba ke inkulumo lenkulumo ke statement lesi akuyona ke inkulumo yomuntu lo ibhalile ngaphakathi kwe statement ke kepha ke inkulumo yomuntu ayiziwe komunye ke umuntu lapho khona kathi ungizwa nje kuphela wenkulumo ke loyo ke kepha icela ukuthi lenkulumo lena inkosi enkantolo engayamukeli njengofakazi bala inkantolo ngoba ke ayinasihlahla noma ayinamsindo malana necala lelenu ke libhekane nalo ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ke bese ehlangothi lezombuso ke laphendula ke lapho ke malana inkulumo leyo ummeli unayilethile lathi ummeli owaletha ke lenkulumo lena ke futhi nofakazi lobuke ummeli osele washona ongasekho la ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ke umnumzana uMngomezulu futhi kwamele ukuthi ihlangothi labamelweni ke bese ulale phezulu kwalombhedo abazibekele wona ke lapho ke futhi washo khona ukuthi inkulumo istatement lesi sele singaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo futhi sele basamukela lapho ke njengofakazi baka Triple U.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Brigadier. But in any event, my lord, we will come and deal with this point as in our main arguments.
Yeah, quite.
Thank you, my lord. Now, your investigation is at this point, at the point where you already have the statement from Mr. Zungu, the senior, which is fraught with hearsay. And then from there, is there anything or any investigation that happened after the 17th of November 2019, which was to try and find out the authenticity of the information that was contained in this hearsay evidence with regard to the implicit of accused number 1 and number 2 in the commission of the offense? In other words, from the 17th of November 2019, what then happened?
Manje ke udaba afisa ukuthi umeli ke alwazi ukuthi ngabe mhlawumbe khona ke ukuphenya kwecala mhlawumbe amanye amanyathelo owahamba ngenhloso yokuthi uphenya kwecala ngemuva kwelanga la nge-17 zaka November ngomnyaka ka-2019 ngemuva kokuthi uthola ke istatement lesike sakamnumzana uAbsalom Zungu ke ubaba ka Constable Zungu ke la kade akutshela khona ke malana nongizwa wenkulumo yakhe kade awuzwile.
Yes, my lord, a lot happened. Investigation proceeded from this statement, and as I indicated yesterday and today, that part of the things that was done was to get Bekiseni to corroborate at least that part from Mr. Absalom, which was futile in terms of fearful of his life.
athi yebo okuningi kwenzeka lapho ke ngemuva ukuthi athole istatement lesi sakababa ka Constable Zungu Absolom Zungu ke lapho ke wazama enza ke inhlelo noma mhlambe inzame zokuthi athole ke lo muntu bambiza ngokuthi umbhekiseni Zungu Ntanzi lapho ke ekuthizeni ezazokhuluma ke ngofakazi bakhe ke obuzohambisana nobufakazi bakababa ka Constable Zungu ke lapho ke kepha wanqaba ukuze yena ke futhi athi uyasaba usabela impilo yakhe.
Cold case analysis, my lord, as I've indicated on them was then done to, to get the details, specifics now, and that led to various cases that are referred to in relation to number one, accused number one, which were then assigned. So these were not cases relating to this matter. It was parallel cases that we identified, that were called, and we needed to have them on site. So we embarked on the cold case analysis to say, let us identify them on these cases because they were there, pursue them on those cases while then one is embarking on evidence that can be collected in this matter.
Yes.
Athi lapho khona ke manje amacala kade akhona ke malana nomsola wokuqala ke angahambisani icala leli esingalo la enkantolo ke namuhla ke kepha kade aqhubeke komnye amacala ke lapho ke ngesikhathi kade kusenza kuphenyo lwabo noma usesha kwabo kwecala kulaba athi khona ke abagxinize kule cala leli ke bese bathola ubufakazi obuhambisanayo noma ufakazi obukhethekile laba khona ukuthi bamthole khona ke umsola wokuqala.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, with the further profiling of accused number one, let's now concentrate on accused number one. Because of the information that is contained in this statement by Mr. Zungu, that culminated to the unearthing of the case against him, which was the case of the possession of drugs, not so. If I'm trying to follow what you're saying well.
Mana icala leli namacala amanye la ukhuluma ngawo malana nomsolo oqala ngabe ukhuluma ngecala leli kade khona ke athosa icala malana nokudayisa ke idakamizwa.
Yes, that you're following me correctly. Yes, it did results to the unearthing of the possession of drugs docket that was already opened in Tembisa, but that case then led to possession of ammunition, but subsequent or maybe prior to that, it also the profiling unearthed other two cases of attempted murder in forced arrest.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo kepha khumule ngesikhathi kade senza ke lo cwaningo lo lokuthi asathola khona ke amanye amacala wakhe ke la kade akhophethe khona ke amabullet futhi namanye amacala kade azama khona ke ukukropa khona kade azama khona ukubulala forced arrest lecala leli kade akhuluma ngalo qala le idakamiswa icala sethembisa ke bese amacala amabili okuzama ukubulala kade amacala se forced arrest.
Yes, that's what was discovered in the cold case analysis insofar as accused number one is concerned.
Athi lokho ke sakuthola mana nomsola oqala ngesikhathi kade senza ucwaningo lwethu lwamacala akhe.
Thank you. And eventually that led to a warrant of arrest being applied for, being authorized against him in respect of the drug case, and ultimately to his arrest on the 30th of May 2020, not so.
Lapho ke khona nenza khona ke isicelo sokuthi na kuyaboshwe ke umsolo wakhe bese nabhala ke incwadi lapho ke bese bayigunyazisa mhlawumbe bayiletha ngokuthi banikeza imvume ke lapho ke ngenyanga ngelanga la nge-30 zaka May unichiye
2020
ngomnyaka 2020 lawo boshwa khona ke boshola amacala okudayisa ke idakamizwa.
Correct, my lord, insofar as the possession or the drug dealing charge, the Tembisa 219 case, that warrant was obtained. But prior to that, there was already a warrant of arrest sitting in one of the dockets, in other words, available, which was not executed in one of the attempted murder cases of forced arrest. We then also applied for the warrant of arrest on the second attempted murder, which was issued. So there were 3 warrants at the end of the day. So 2 on attempted murder charges and 1 on this drug dealing case.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo wagcina ke boshwa ke ngelanga la nge-30 zaka May ngomnyaka 2020 ngemuva kokuthi bona kade wathule ke imvume yokuthi bakuthole ke bakubophe ke lapho ke mana licala leli lasethembisa ke le case 219 futhi kade khona ke warrant of arrest kade ithishiwe lapho ke malana icala lakho lokuzama ukubulala ke lapho ke forced arrest futhi bese kwaba khona ke enye yesithathu ke lapho ke incwadi ade benayo ukuthi zima bakubophe ke ngayo ke malana nelicala lase forced arrest lokuzama ukubulala.
Thank you, Brigadier. But the crux of the matter is On the strength of the warrant of arrest that was authorized under the drug case, the drug case, the Tembisa case. That is when then accused number 1 got arrested. Upon his arrest, then there were this allegation that the state came up with that he got interviewed firstly by Sergeant Mohula, who indicated that accused number 1 seemed to have knowledge about what happened with the death of Senzo Meyiwa, and that exposed everything which led us to this extent, and so.
Bathi akusinjalo ukuthi ngemuva kokuthi nake aboshweke ngelanga lange-30 zakaMeyi ngomnyaka 2020 boshwe icala sethembisa lokudayisa ke idakamiswa ke lapho ke kula khona waqhamuka khona kumnumzana Sergeant Mukula bese wathi kumphenya ke ngemibuzo ke bese ngemuva kwalokho bese wamthwesa ke icala leli aqhamuka ngalo ke la ngaphambi kwenkantolo lesikiwana ke manje.
That is correct, my lord. So the Tembisa warrant of arrest was the first one to be initiated, but then the phosphorus one followed while he was facing charges in Tembisa. It was also, those warrants were also dealt with, my lord, and he made appearances. But yes, the sparking point, or the starting point, if one can say that, was the Tembisa warrant of arrest.
Athi yebo kunjalo ke icala uqala la kade aboshwe malana nalo ke kungemuva ukuthi bakhiphe incwadi ukuthi nakaboshwe kamaphoyisa lapho ke warrant of arrest ngesingisi ke lapho ke mayelana icala sethembisa lokudayisa ke idakamiswa ke bese ngemuva kwalokho ke bese wakhipha incwadi yokuqala ukuthi nakaboshwe malana icala ukuzama ukubulala ke lapho ke phosphorus.
Thank you, Brigadier. Are you aware of the arrest of accused person, of accused number 1 by a group of police in 20? Let me just get the date very specific, Madam. May I just request a minute from that case? Thank you for the indulgence, my lord. Now, Brigadier, let's go to the beat here. Are you aware of any incident of the arrest of the accused, that's now accused number 1, around March in 2019?
Bathi ngabe unalo yini ulwazi ngesikhathi kade uboshwa ke umnumzana oqala nomsolo oqala ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka 2019
in relation to this case?
malana icala leli.
So I'm aware of the arrest, my lord, but it is incorrect to say it was in this case. He was arrested for Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, and that is a docket of drug dealing. That's what he was arrested for.
Athi yebo nginalo ke ulwazi lokho kepha asilona ke kade ngaboshwa uthi kade ngaboshwa lapho malana icala leli kepha kade aboshwa malana icala sethembisa lapho ko case 217 of 2019.
And that is the case, my lord, that we picked up when we were doing the cold case analysis, that he was arrested, but they could not link him, and then the case went cold. So we went to draw that docket at the archives. He was not arrested by that team, by this team, because by the time we drew it, that matter was already dealt with. We only got a statement that directs us to accused number 1 in November 2019. Prior to that, we had no knowledge or sight on him. Once we had then the statement of Absalom Zungu making us to focus on him, cold case analysis was done. This Tembisa case was then picked up, and then we went to draw it, to draw it from the archives, investigated it, and then subsequently the warrant was done. So I know insofar as what the docket is telling me, and the charges that he was facing there was drug dealing and not this matter.
Athi lapho ke kade engaboshiwe malana icala leli kepha kade aboshiwe malana icala lakhe lasethembisa ke lapho ludayisa ke idakamiswa ke lapho ke bese bathi kade khona ka cold case analysis la kade khona ke futhi lapho ke bese ngemuva ukuthi bathole ke ulwazi lolu ngelanga la nge-19 ngenyanga kaNovember ngomnyaka 2019 uqhamuka ngelanga la nge-17 zakaNovember ngomnyaka 2019 ulwazi lolu kade liqhamuka kubaba ka Constable Zungu ke kulabo bona kuqala beza khona ke ukuphenya kwecala labo malana nomsola wokuqala ke lapho ke ngemuva ukuthi kade abatsheli ujobelile mayelana nolwazi lolu kade analo ke mayelana nomsola uqala ke lapho ke athi futhi ujobelile wathi ufakazi kulaba basuka khona ke bayahamba baya e-archives lapho ke bakhipha ke docket lelo kade anecala mayelana nalo lapha ke Thembisa ke bese ngemuva kwalokho kulawa boshwa khona.
Sorry, it's case number 217 of which month?
Of 3/2019,
Of
my
3,
lord.
2019. Okay.
Correct, my lord. Tembisa.
Yeah.
Just a second, my lord, just a minute of indulgence. May I request just a minute, my lord, just
Yeah,
to
no,
confirm
no.
this aspect, yes.
Take your time.
Thank you for the indulgence, my lord. Thank you. Brigadier. You know, the reason why I'm asking whether you have knowledge about this clerk arrest, not really clerk arrest, but of the arrest in March 2019 of accused number 1, because he is telling me that around 20, you might not remember the date so well, but it was in 2019. He was accosted by police people. He was in Tembisa. And he was accosted by a group of police. Some of them were in uniform and some of them were in private clothes. He specifically remembers amongst those who were there a certain Mr. Mudau, I don't know their ranks, a certain Mr. Mudau, a certain Mr. Baloi, and as I've said, and one other policeman who was also in uniform.
Athi ke sathi sokuthi akubuze ke mayelana nalombuzo lokho ukuthi ke umsolo athi kade kumnyaka ka-2019 kepha ngenyanga kaMarch kepha ilanga akasalikhumuli kade ke uyilanga liphi ke lapho ke la kade khona kwaboshwa amaphoyisa amaningi amaphoyisa akhona kamanye kade egqoke ingubo zabo zesiphoyisa futhi amanye inye egqoke ingubo zabo zasekhaya futhi ke amaphoyisa la uyakhumula ukuthi kade khona ke iphoyisa ababesithi uMudawu noBaloyi futhi namanye nje amaphoyisa kepha amanye akawakhumbuli kahle ukuthi kade kwamaphoyisa abo bani.
Yes, I'm listening, my lord.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Brigadier.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Yeah. Now he's telling me that when they accosted him, they were driving in a kumbi, like I think it's a Nissan kumbi, it's in Pendulo kind of a thing, but I think it's a kumbi. This guy who accosted him was driving in a kumbi.
athi la maphoyisa la amaningi ambopha ke lapho kade beshela ke ikhumbi noma itekisi lezi siphoyisa athi cabanga ukuthi inisane noma impendulo.
I'm listening, my lord.
Thank
I'm
you.
following.
athi yebo ngilalele.
And upon his arrest, he was then taken to Clorkop.
athi ngemuva ukuthi nabambophe ke bamthatha bamikisa ke eClorkop.
I think that is where the offices of these people who arrested him were, I would assume, because they were just offices, they are according to him.
athi ucabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe kula kokade khona kamahhovisi lamaphoyisa kade kambophile la kade bamikise khona ke ngoba kade khona kamagumbi ahlukene amahhovisi lapho ke.
I'm listening, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. And then he says, upon their arrival at Clorkop, they put him in one of the unoccupied offices there. They also asked him questions in relation to the death of Senzo.
athi ngesikhathi kade lapho ke bamfaka kwigumbi elikhethekile ama kwigumbi elithizeni lapho ke ngesikhathi kade bemfake khona ke kulelo gumbi baqala khona bamphenya noma bambuza ke imibuzo ke mayelana necala la kaSenzo.
I'm listening, my lord. Yes, I'm following.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. When he informed them that he knows nothing about this, they then started to assault him.
athi ngesikhathi kade aphendula amaphoyisa abatshela ukuthi nakanalo ke ulwazi mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo amaphoyisa aqala amshaya khona lapho ke.
I'm following, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
He continued to deny any knowledge about the death of Senzo. Then the assault also continued, but when they realized that there's nothing that they would be able to extract from him, they then stopped the assault and took him to another office.
athi lakho la waqhubeka khona ke nake ebatshela ukuthi akanalo ulwazi mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo bekepha ke amaphoyisa nawo aqhubeka lapho ke engayekile ukumshaya ke lapho ke futhi ngesikhathi kade amaphoyisa ebuka ukuthi akanalo ngempela ke ulwazi noma akanayo incazelo kade atshela amaphoyisa ke bamkhipha ke kulelo gumbi lelo ke bese bamletha bamikisa kulinye igumbi noma ihhovisi khona ngalapho.
I'm following, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. In this subsequent office that they took him to, there were also other individuals there who he identified as a certain Mr. Lishabane. There was also a Sibiya there. He's not so sure whether it's general or what, but he's telling me that the way in which he was being addressed, it sounded like he was a high-ranking officer. There was also a Makubo there. There was also Constable Zungu, the one who gave you the information which led you to Absalom Zungu, his father.
athi ngesikhathi kade bemikise ke kwigumbi lesibili ke ngemuva kokuthi kade bemfake kwigumbi lokuqala ngemuva ukuthi bamkhiphe kwigumbi lokuqala leli kade bamfake kulona ke bemshayela kulona ke bemphenya ke ngemibuzo ke lapho ke bamikisa kwigumbi lesibili ngesikhathi bekafika kwigumbi lesibili ke lapho ke kulawo bona khona amanye amaphoyisa kade akhona ke lapho ke umnomzana oLeshabane umnomzana uSibiya akathi mhlawumbe ugeneral noma kade kuye omkhulu kula amaphoyisa kade akhona ke lapho ke futhi uMakhubo futhi noConstable Zungu ke ukhumula ukuthi indodana kaBaba uAbsalom Zungu ulo owanilethela ke ulwazi.
My lord, can I then have an opportunity to comment on what has been said before we move forward? Because a lot, I won't be able to remember all these things.
Okay,
Is
fine,
that fine?
please.
Yeah, can I proceed? So, my lord, insofar as the Tembisa case 217, because I want to start there, Tembisa 217 of 3/2019, there is no statement in that docket
Athi ke mina necala sethembisa ke leli lokudayisa ke idakamizwa ke case 217/03/ of 2017 athi lapho ke akukho istatement esikhona ke ukuthi ngaphakathi kwedocket lelo.
No. It's
My
not
apologies.
what I meant, yeah, wait. So there is no statement that implicates or suggests that accused number 1 was questioned about this case. In other words, or that he was arrested for the matter before court and that he was then taken through interrogation or interviews insofar as that docket is concerned. There's no such statement, my lord.
Ngiyaxolisa ke lapho ke nesilungiso sikhona ke athi mina nacala sethembisa lapho ke akukho la babhalile khona ke mhlawumbe babhale statement khona ke bathi umisolo oqala unesandla lecala leli esingalo ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
What is contained in that docket, my lord, from the beginning, from A1 right up to the end, is the issues relating to drugs, and up to the time that the case went cold, we came on the picture. The case was reopened. It went through the trial process with. I don't mean to defame the accused, but he was convicted for those charges and not the matter relating to this matter. For the charges, when I say those charges, I'm referring to the charges of possession of drugs and ammunition. That is the conviction or announcement that was announced by the court, my lord, in Tembisa.
Athi lapho ke ngemuva icala likade beliyekile kuphela ke nje kepha ngemuva ukuthi bona ke bafike lapho ke baphinda futhi balivusa icala lelo ke ngemuva ukuthi balivusa icala bese wahamba waqhamuka phambi kwenkantolo balixoxa icala lakhe ke lapho ke bese inkosi enkantolo mtholiseni icala bese wagwetshwa ke lapho ke malana nokudayisa ke idakamizwa nokuthi noma bamthole ephethe idakamizwa futhi ethole ke ephethe ke amabullet.
Now, relating to this matter specifically, my lord, because in March, I was already assigned to lead this investigation in March 2019. At no stage, myself or any of my team members informed me that there was such information in Tembisa, because if there was such pursuance, it would have been important for me to know as I'm carrying the docket. You know, we followed a lot of information on this docket, which turned out not to be true at times or inaccurate, but you followed it once it's brought to you. So at no stage was I informed that accused 1 in particular was a suspect in this matter. The only time, and really the only time where his name came up was with the Zungus, both the junior and the senior. That is really what made me focus, or made us focus on accused number 1, my lord. And that's the essence of what led me to it, not the March story. I'm not aware of it, my lord.
Athi ke ufakaza cha yena akanaloko ulwazi ukuthi ngabe yini eyenzeka ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka ka2019 ngoba ke lapho akukho umuntu waqhamuka kuyena ke leqembu lakhe kwafika kwamtshela malana nolwazi kade ke analoko mayelana necala leli ke lapho ke kepha ke yena ulwazi oqala ke ulwazi loqala alaqhamuka kuyena ke lwaqhamuka ngozungu ingane kaBaba uAbsalom Zungu ke ngesikhathi kade ahlezi nabo phansi bobabili lapho ke ngesikhathi kade bekhuluma malana negama la kaMsola oqala.
We can then proceed, my lord, I think, yeah, and then.
Thank you. Then he further says that upon being questioned again about his knowledge about the death of Senzo, now in the presence of Lishabane, Sibiya, Makubu, and Zungu, his response being the fact that he knows nothing. That is when then Makubo suggested that he should rather be released because it is clear that he does not seem to have knowledge, or he does not seem to have been involved in the commission of, in the death of Senzo.
Athi ke lapho ke ngesikhathi kade akhulumisana no mnumzana ulishabane mnumzana uSibiya futhi no kade athi mhlawumbe ugeneral noma kade kuye kade nesikhundla esiphezulu kunesikhundla salamanye amaphoyisa kade akhona ke lapho ke uMakhubo noZungu ke athi yena wabatshela ukuthi akanalo ulwazi ngokushona kukaSenzo ke lapho ke bese umnumzana uMakhubo athi kumele bamdedele ngoba lo muntu lo uyajangakala ukuthi cha ngempeleni akanalo ulwazi.
My lord, look, I was not obviously in that meeting, so if it did take place, even to begin with, I won't be able to comment. But what I can say and comment on, my lord, is insofar as Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, because it is clearly indicated there that he was arrested for the case of dealing in drugs. The reason of him not being pursued further is because the matter was withdrawn due to the absence of the 212 statement for the authentication of the drugs. Those are the reasons that are contained in that docket. That's the first part.
Athi-ke kwiphuzu lokuqala angathanda ukuthi akhulume mayelana nodaba lwakhona-ke uma ngaba lo mhlangano kade bewuhlelile noma uma ngaba lo mhlangano kade ukhona empeleni akanalo ulwazi lomhlangano loyo-ke ngoba kade engekho kulowo mhlangano loyo-ke kepha athi mayena icala sethembisa lelo ukuthi waboshwa-ke eboshelwa udayisa-ke idakamizwa noma utholakala inedakamizwa kuyena-ke yilona icala angaze akhulume ngalo-ke lapho-ke ngoba icala kade bengaqhubekile nalo kade belimisile ngoba kade bengenawo ama-statement kade kumele ukuthi bawathole ama-212 statement.
Secondly, my lord, there is no statement in that docket of Warrant Officer Makubo forming part of that investigation or interview at any stage, from the initial stage up to the time the matter went to trial. Even when we were involved, Warrant Officer Makubo did not submit any statement in that docket. So there was no statement that indicates, or perhaps one can take it further, even on the diary, the investigation diary, that says in that docket in particular around that time, because that's the only matter I can refer to, he was present.
Athi futhi okwesibili-ke lapho akukho istatement sakamnumzana uMakhubo ngaphakathi kwe-docket le lasethembisa icala lasethembisa lakamsola la kade akhulume khona ukuthi mhlawumbe kade yena kade akhona-ke noma kade mhlawumbe komunye wabalekeleli noma kade komunye kade alekelela-ke abaseshi becala.
Lastly, my lord, I'm saying this with greatest respect, I do not understand if somebody gives an information to you, how do you spontaneously at that spot come to a conclusion that someone is not involved and must be released? I mean, if the assertion is correct, Warrant Officer Makubo, as I'm saying, is a warrant officer, and if the assertion that is given to me is also correct that there were two generals there, the seniority is very clear. Generals will make that decision. So I don't understand how will a warrant officer, without even investigation, then will impose the decision in the presence of the general, and the generals must just follow. That doesn't make sense to me, my lord, with greatest respect.
Athi lokho ngenhlonipho-ke enkulu akwenza umcabango othizini like namhlanje umcabango oqondile mayelana ukuthi kumnumzana warrant officer Makhubo ngoba kade ngoba esikhathini samanje usase warrant officer namanje ukuthi yena acabange nomhlambi aqhamuke nephuzu lokuthi kumele ukuthi bamdedeleke umsola uqala-ke lapho-ke ngapha akhulume lokho ngaphambi kwabo general bakhe ababili kade bekhona-ke lapho-ke le nto lathi yinto engeze yenzeke.
Yes, my lord, that's the essence of.
Yeah, thank you, Brigadier. Let me just correct one perception from the last point of your analysis. Mr. Makubo, from the instruction I'm getting from Mr. Sibia, never said he should be released. Mr. Makubo only suggested that he should be released because it appears to him, Mr. Makubo, that he bears no knowledge about the death of Senzo. So it is therefore a little bit ingenious for you to say that Mr. Makubo is the one who gave an order that he should be released. I just want to correct that.
Let's not argue about non-essentials. If you suggest something,
Yes, ma'am.
if you had said somebody else other than Makubo suggested, but you are saying your instructions are Makubo suggested.
Yes.
Yeah, he suggests to the generals.
Yes, madam.
Right, and he was released thereafter.
It means the
Yeah,
suggested, it means the generals bought his suggestion.
Yes, the suggestion was
So there's
taken.
nothing wrong in that.
Is that
I'm
so?
only correcting the brigadier who says it is very strange for a junior officer to instruct senior officers to release somebody else. It was only a suggestion. And on the basis of the information that they had then, they said, no, Makubo's Vumelana now. Exactly. That's just the perception that I'm trying to correct. Thank you, sir. But let us proceed. And indeed, he was released and he never was taken to court.
Bathi yebo empeleni bamdedela-ke lapho kakakaze bamthathe bamnikise ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
I'm not aware, my lord. Like I said, what I know is that he was released because the 212 statement, and that's what is contained in the docket, was unavailable to take the matter forward. That's what I can comment about.
Athi yebo lapho bamdedela-ke ngoba kade kungekho ama-212 statement lapho kade uthi abe khona ngaphakathi kwe-docket.
Now, thank you, Brigadier. Before we proceed and develop this aspect of what happened at Torkop, it's to me it appears like a similar method that you and your team used in the arrest of accused number 1 in 2020 was also used in March 2019 when he got arrested and taken to Torko. And the reason why I'm saying that is as follows.
Athi manje kumeli malana na nokubona kwakhe ke sekutshangala ngathi nena sebenzisa ke indlela eyodwa ke ngomnyaka 2020 ngesikhathi denibopha ke umsola oqala ke futhi indlela eyodwa le ade setshenziswa amaphoyisa ngomnyaka 2019 ngoMarch ngesikhathi kade eboshwa ngesikhathi kade bemikisa lapho eClotco.
Now, in 2020, when you and your team, that included Sergeant Mahula, Mabena, etc., when you arrested accused number 1, or when accused number 1 was arrested, it was not directly on this case, but it was on the basis of the case of dealing in drugs. But subsequent thereto, you question him about this case. Not so?
Athi wena ke nabo Sergeant nabo mnumzana nabo Mukhula nabo Mabhena futhi nabanye ngesikhathi kade nibopha ke umsolwa ngomnyaka 2020 kade nimbopha mana iqala lasethembisa ke kade nibophile ngeqala leli kepha ngemuva uthi eboshiwe lapho ke bese namphina ke ngemibuzo ke gcina senifika kule qala leli akusenjalo.
And I'm not suggesting there is anything wrong about that.
Athi akasho ukuthi khona ke okungalungile ngokwenza lokho.
It's just the methodology.
So my lord, I'll start with the last part. The answer is correct, yes. He was arrested for the drug dealing case, and then in the background, we have done a cold case analysis insofar as this matter is concerned. That's the first part. So I agree with the last assertion, but I want to go to the first portion of Advocate Mnis's statement.
Athi malana nephuzo yelo ke yebo kuyiqiniso kade bembopha malana iqala leli lasethembisa ke udayisa ke idakamiswa ke lapho ke kepha malana nephuzo lokuqala umele aqhamuke ngalo ke uyothi abuye aze kulona ke manje.
When we did that, my lord, I was given a mandate to investigate this case. So in other words, one was not sitting randomly and selecting or deciding that you will pursue suspects which you do not have a docket on. This docket was given to us, to me to lead as the investigating officer. As part of the investigation, we obtained evidence that was pointing us to accused number 1. And it is on those bases that then the analysis, the methodology was then embarked on to focus on him, not in the absence of this docket. So this docket was the basis of what we were doing.
Athi yebo khona ke lapho kunjalo ke kepha ukhumule khona nje athi nake umnumzana bamnika idocket leli ukuthi akaseshe noma ke enze uphenyo lakhe mayelana neqala leli ngesikhathi kade besenza lokho kade besenza kama call analysis lapho ke uma ebiza ngegama lesingisi ke lapho ke ngesikhathi besenza lokho kula khona ke kade benolwazi lolo kade banikisa komsola wokuqala.
Now, in March 2019, my lord, I was still in possession of this docket, as I've said to date. The members who appears there as the arresting officers in the Tembisa case were not part of my investigation team. They are local detectives, they are police officers, crime prevention and detectives from Tembisa. They were not part of the investigation prior to me being present. They are not part of the investigation team up to date. So they have no knowledge or relevance insofar as I know, insofar as this matter is concerned. It will then be peculiar because what questions do you put? And how do you dispute the answers when you are not sitting with the docket? Because if somebody answers you or you're building a case, you need to see if what is being collected is in line with your docket. So how will investigators pursue someone on a matter that they're not sitting with the docket with? Because in March 2019, I was in possession of the original docket and I was the lead investigating officer and I was not part of this interview or whatever that transpired in Tembisa, my lord.
Athi ke lapho ngomnyaka kaMarch ko2019 kade aphethe ke docket leli licala leli ke kena ke ufakazi ngesikhathi kade aphethe docket leli ke kena ke kade azama ukwenza ke uphenyo lakhe noma usashe kwicala leli ke kepha melana nodaba lamaphoyisa lasethembisa ke wona ke athi akona ke abahlangana khona ke melana necala leli ke ngoba wona kade bephenya icala lasethembisa ke la kaMsola ngesikhathi kade eboshiwe khona lapho eboshiwe ukuthi watholakala ke inedakamiswa kena ke noma watholakala edayisa ke idakamizwa kuyena-ke futhi ade kule docket leli aliphethe lana-ke ngesikhathi amaphoyisa ade ekhulumisana nawo-ke akukho la abhala khona i-statement amnikeza mayelana nomsolo wokuqala kule docket leli lalecala esingalo la ngaphambi kwenkantolo manje.
No, any of my members that are referred to, my lord, with the exception of Warantusa Makubo, because I'm being told he was there, although I can't confirm. But insofar as the team members that I'm aware of, none of them, including Warantusa Makubo, by the way, informed me that this man was arrested. There was a suspect arrested by the name of Sibia, and he participated in that interview. He didn't tell me that in the briefing when we were still talking together. I don't recall him saying there's a suspect arrested, and he interviewed that suspect and decided or suggested that that particular suspect must be released.
Athi ngesikhathi bekhulumisana no-warrant officer Makhubo akunala warrant officer Makhubo wamtshela khona ukuthi kunomlisa uthizeni abamiza ukuthi uSibiyake owaboshwa-ke lapho-ke ngesikhathi ade qeda kuboshwa khona babese bamphina-ke ngemibuzo-ke kepha uma bengatholi-ke ulwazi malana nalo muntu uma bengatholi ulwazi kade luqhamuka kuSibiyake lapho-ke bese wacabanga wathi yena-ke wasuggest ukuthi kumele ukuthi bamdedele akukho la wakhuluma khona-ke u-warrant officer Makhubo kuyena-ke ufakazi.
Yes, my lord. That's how far I can take it at this stage.
Athi kula angaza khulume agcine khona-ke kulesikhathi samanje.
Thank you, Brigadier. The methodology. In 2019, March 2019, accused number 1, that's my analysis, gets arrested for something else, but he gets quizzed on the death of Senzo Meyiwa. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong in that. I'm just trying to draw an analogy on the methodologies that have been used. You get arrested, he gets arrested on something else, he gets quizzed on something else.
Athi-ke lapho-ke ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka 2019 umsola wokuqala uyaboshwa lapho boshwa icala elithizeni-ke ngesikhathi kade aboshwa icala elithizeni sebaqhamuka bambuza-ke imibuzo-ke mayelana necala lokushona kukaSenzo.
So, my lord, the methodology that is being explained to me by Advocate Mnisi, okay, let me talk about the cold case methodology. It doesn't work that way. Perhaps let me just put it, because perhaps there's a misunderstanding of how cold case analysis or the methodology, if I can use that term, works. How it works, my lord, you need to have the basis. You need to have a docket that you are pursuing, that is cold. In embarking to solve that matter, you then apply various methods of identifying parallel cases to the same target that you are pursuing. But there must be basis. So you can't just take a case random that has nothing to do with what you are investigating, and then, because there won't be a connection. So there must be a basis, like in this instance, there's a death of Senzo Meyiwa. The reason we apply this methodology is because we're trying to connect this suspect to this main charge. Now, that is now the death of Senzo Meyiwa. Insofar as the Tembisa matter, those investigators were not part of this case. So they could not have applied this method insofar as this matter before court is concerned, because they were not in possession of this investigation, they were not part of this investigation, so they could not bring anything to this matter. If they applied it, it was for something else, but definitely not this matter.
Athi-ke lapho-ke uma besenza kuphenyo lwabo-ke lapho-ke bagxinize ekutheni benze kuphenyo mayelana necala leli ababhekene nalo kusuke benalo ngaphambi kwabo-ke lapho-ke futhi oqhubeka wajobela washo khona njalo ukuthi mayelana necala leli-ke lapho kona-ke kula kade bezama ukuxhumanisa khona-ke umsola mayelana necala leli noma mhlawumbe bamlethe kule cala leli mayelana nolwazi kade analo-ke ngesikhathi lesi bekaphenya-ke icala leli-ke noma mayelana nolwazi lolu ade alutholile ngesikhathi bekasenza ukusesha kwakhe kwicala leli futhi waqhubeka washo khona njalo ukuthi amaphoyisa lapho ke Thembisa mayelana necala leli likamsolo lasithembisa-ke kade engekho kule cala leli esingalo la enkantolo futhi abanalo ulwazi mayelana nedocket lecala leli esinalo la phambi kwenkantolo manje.
Yes, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier. Brigadier, is it not your evidence? Oh, I'm sorry. An indulgence, my lord.
Yeah, fine.
sorry about that, my lord. Apparently this up and down movement is going to be it's going to occur very frequently. I may apologize in advance for
No,
that.
no,
my
no.
lord. Thank you.
I'm used to it. 2 years I've been watching it.
Yes, my lord. Unfortunately now it's on my shoulders. Thank you, my lord. Now, Brigadier, before I forget this aspect, wasn't really part of your evidence that upon your appointment as investigating officers in this matter, you made copies of the dockets and gave other police who were also appointed as investigators in this matter, including Makubo.
Mnumzana manje umeli uthanda kwazi la kuwena ukuthi ngabe kade kungase ufakazi bakho lo wabukhuluma ukuthi ngesikhathi bowukhethiwe njengomholi wabaseshi becala leli la wona ke wenza kula khona ke wena kwenza amakhophi khona ke bese wanikeza ke amanye amaphoyisa la kade usebenzisana nawo ekuthizini baphenye ke icala noma kade usizana nabo ekuthizini baphenye icala leli wakhuluma igama lika mnumzana warrant officer Makubo.
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kuyiqiniso.
So why then do you say you were the only person who was in possession of the case docket? Other police people would not have known what was the content of this docket that related to the death of Caesar, or of Senzo.
Manje bathi kungani ukuthi uwe kuphela kade uphetheke idocket leli lecala leli kepha ke amanye amaphoyisa kade engenalo ulwazi lokuthi ngabe yini eqokethwe ngaphakathi kwedocket leli lokushona kukaSenzo.
No, I think, my lord, perhaps I was misunderstood. I said, and that's why I said it's important for me to refer to Tembisa case 217, because that's what I can factually connect to the incident of March 2019. And I'm saying those members, the police officers in that case, which I can read in terms of the investigating officer, read their statements, the arresting officers, they were not part of this investigation team, and therefore they were not privy to this investigation. I'm referring to those police officers who were not involved, who were involved in Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, because that is the incident I can talk to, my lord, where I could see that in March, accused number 3, and it's the only incident in March where he was arrested and then later released. Those police officers did not have even the copies of this docket, but they were also not part of this investigation. So I'm saying on those bases, they could not have known what is contained in the docket.
Athi lapho ke mhlawumbe ucinga ukuthi naka awukaze umzwisise kahle ke mail uma ngabe khuluma ngokuthi amaphoyisa la kade engahambisani nabo noma kade ke amaphoyisa la kade angekho ngaphansi kwethimba leli lokusesha kwicala leli ukhuluma ngamaphoyisa kade asesha icala sethembisa ke lapho ke le case number u217/03/2019 lapho ke athi amaphoyisa lawo ke kade engekho ngaphansi kwethimba lakhe lokusesha icala leli esingalo la phambi kwenkosi enkantolo athi bona kade besesha icala la sethembisa ke la umsoko kade ethweswe icala lokutholakala inedakamiswa noma icala lokuthi bamthole idayisa idakamiswa lapho ke futhi ngemuva kwalapho kulasele bamdedela khona ke yena ke ngoba kade bengatholi ama statement we212.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Athi yebo iyona impendulo yakhe leyo.
Thank you, sir. But in your analysis and in your answer, why are you avoiding to include Makubo as a person who also who had a duplicate or who had information about this sense of Meyiwa's case?
Bathi mina ngingaza kungani ke uMakubo ungamfakile ngamasheke malana icala leli kade analo ke noma ne docket leli kade analo ke lokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
Because I'm sorry before you answer, because accused number 1 specifically mentioned that he was also a clerk.
Ngoba ke umsolo qala ukukhulumile ukuthi kade akhona ke lapho ke clerk.
My lord, excuse me, I dealt with the first part too. So Warrant Officer Makubo's name came up on the first assertion that was made by Advocate Mnisi when he said, do I confirm or am I changing from that evidence that I've made copies for the other investigators in this matter? That included Warrant Officer Makubo, and my answer was yes. Then I moved forward to say the members involved in the Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019 were not part of this investigation. They were not reporting to me. No, they were part of the investigation team that was before us. So based on those, based on that knowledge, my lord, I do not see then on what basis would they have had copies of the docket. That is the first part, my lord.
Athi-ke kuphuzu lokuqala-ke la ungathanda ukuthi akho aqinize lo daba lolu olulandelayo. Kuwukuthi abaseshi noma abantu kade bekhona ngaphansi kwethimba lakhe besesha noma bephenya icala leli kade ebenzela amakhophi bese wabanikeza amakhophi edocket lila edocket lalicala leli ke kepha-ke ukhumule khona ukuthi amaphoyisa akhe lapha ethembisa ke mayelana necala le-case 217/03 of 2020 ke bona kade bengenaso isandla noma kade bengalekeleli lutho mayelana necala leli eliqhamuka phambi kwenkosi enkantolo manje sibhekane nalo icala lokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa futhi uyasho khona ukuthi bona kade behambisana nelinye iqembu lalapho kethembisa ke ngesikhathi kade besenza uphenya kwicala labo ke malana nomsolwa leli kade benalo lokuthi bathola umsolwa edayisa idakamizwa.
Second, my lord, I said I spoke to Warrant Officer Makubo because at that stage we were still communicating. Hence, I was able to inform them at the time about Zungu, the initial stage, with Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi. At no stage did Warrant Officer Makubo informed me that he was called to an interview where accused one was involved, or rather was questioned. At no stage he made that assertion to me, my lord, or any of the team members of the team, my lord.
Athi khona-ke lapho-ke kade akhulumisana futhi Lieutenant Warrant Officer Makubo kepha akazamtsheleke futhi khona komunye ambizile nakuthi Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi lapho-ke nabo akaze bamtshela ukuthi kade bekhulumisana nomsola uqala noma kade bemphenya-ke nemibuzo noma kade bembuza-ke imibuzo ngesikhathi leso-ke.
Yes, my lord, that's my response.
So, Brigadier, in short, you then saying that this allegation that accused number one is saying, or this information that is coming up from accused number one, according to you, it could never have happened that way.
Manje athumeli ngabe usho ukuthi mayelana nolwazi loluqhamuka kumsola oqala usho ukuthi mayelana nenkulumo yakhe yonke ke leyo nto la ayikaze yabakhona noma ayikaze yenzeke.
My lord, I can confirm, as I've said, that he was arrested, but the arrest related to the drug dealing. So my response, my lord, it must not be misunderstood to be saying I was not present in so far as what happened in Tembisa. If the assertion is that there were certain discussions, I do not know. I was not part of that. I'm simply giving evidence on what I could put my hands on, and I'm saying the first part of Tembisa matter is the docket of Tembisa. In that docket, there is no reference of what is being put to me. That's the first part. The second part, insofar as this matter that is before court, which I was leading in March 2019, there is no information that was brought to me by any of the investigators that accused number one is a suspect and is being interviewed. On those basis, my lord, it will be difficult for me to say, yes, it happened. On what basis? I was not there. So if it happened, my lord, I wouldn't know. I was not there. But there's no evidence or basis that supports that narrative in both dockets, my lord.
Athi la madokethi omabili-ke lapho-ke na-ke akukho la bamtshela khona ukuthi umsola uqala kade aboshiwe futhi ngesikhathi kade aboshiwe ngaso-ke bese bamaphoyisa-ke amphenya ambuza-ke imibuzo-ke lapho-ke bese babuya bamtshela-ke ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka ka-2019 athi akukho laba kade asebenzisana nabo ethizeni-ke baseshe icala leli noma baphenye icala leli babuya bamtshela ukuthi umsola uqala kade aboshiwe mayicala lasethembisa-ke lapho-ke leli kade aliboshelwe futhi babuya bakhuluma naye lapho-ke athi akukho la yena-ke ufakazi ababuya bamtshela.
Yes, that's my response, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier. That sounds much better. The fact that you did not receive information from those who participated in this incident does not mean that this did not happen. Not so.
Nanoma kuwukuthi wena-ke mnumzana ukaze-ke uthole ulwazi mayelana namaphoyisa la kade ahlezi nomsolo aphansi bembuza-ke imibuzo lokho akusho ukuthi lokho akaze kwenzeke.
Because you are not there.
Ngoba kade ungekho lapho-ke.
I was not there, my lord. I think I've answered that. I don't know how far can I take it now.
Yeah, just for my edification.
Yes.
Athi yebo ngangekho.
Is it possible? Oh, sorry.
Athi yebo lapho kade ngingekho futhi angazi ukuthi ngaphendula ngithini-ke manje.
General Leshabane was the most senior guy there. And that there was a commissioner of police, obviously, above him.
There was General Shaban and General Sibia is a DNC now.
Right.
Then yes, they would have been in the same level.
Yeah.
Yes, but also General Sibia at that time, what I know, my lord, he was not in the police. He was doing some other work in Johannesburg. So General Shabane, but they were in the same level, the level of Major General when General Sibiya was there. But subsequent to that, he's now a Deputy National Commissioner. This is now General Sibiya, currently.
So a general can interview a suspect called Rathamokotling. There's no docket which is opened. There are no notes which are kept of the discussion of the interview or the interrogation. And yet you, as the colonel in charge of the investigation, you never got any notification.
That's why, my lord, I said I'm finding that very strange, particularly if you take into account the level of experience. General Sibiya was the head of the Hawks in Gauteng.
Okay.
So he's a detective by nature. He's now the Deputy National Commissioner currently in the country. General Shabane was even though he was a cluster commander in the North Rand area, but he was a detective as well. And so that's why I'm saying how the narrative is being told to me, I can't take it further than that, my lord.
Kade kuza senkanto ukuthi manje ke lapho kusho ukuthi umnumzana uGeneral Major General Sibiya futhi no General Leshabana ke lapho ke ngabe kade khona ke omunye mhlawumbe kade anesikhundla esiphezulu esingaphezulu kunesomunye bese ufakazwa kuphela ngokuthi kade ikhundla zabo zilingana ke bona ke bobabili ke lapho ke futhi asho ukuthi khona manje kumnumzana omunye ukhona ke lapho ke sele ku Deputy National Commissioner lapho ke bese yade bebuza ukuthi manje lokho yena athi akakuthuli kahle ukuthi lokho kungenzeka kade kwenzeke kanjani ngoba kade anganalo ulwazi lwenkulumo.
As it please the court, my lord. May I just respond to what the court wanted to inquire from the witness here? This witness just indicated that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So if those are the questions that are mind-boggling in the mind of the court, for the court to get first-hand information on whether or not there were notes which were kept there, whether or not there were not notes, the very best person who can come and demystify the court on this kind of a myth which is there is the person himself, not this witness.
No, fine.
Because he wasn't there.
No, quite.
It will therefore be very improper to conclude this matter on the understanding that...
No, you're reading what I not...
Thank you, my lords.
I'm just the modus operandi.
Yes.
Like me here.
Yes.
The JP.
Yes.
The deputy JP.
Yes, my lord.
It goes with structures.
Yes.
They hold a meeting with Rathamokotling.
Yes.
They don't keep any notes. There's no docket. That's what I want to understand. That's all. It has got nothing to do. It's just the protocol. Because somebody is being interrogated.
Yes.
After being assaulted. I don't know if you still remember that.
Yes.
He's assaulted.
Yes.
And then he's brought before a general.
Yes.
The Shabani.
Yes.
And Sibiya.
Yes.
And Makubu.
Yes.
And then nothing happens. They just say, let him go.
But as I'm saying, my lords, if
fine.
the court is really interested in getting to know about the dynamics of what happened there, the most relevant people is not this witness,
Yeah,
because
no,
he
but
wasn't there.
you are right.
It is those people who were
Fine,
there.
no problem.
I think Sibiya is still alive, my lords. He's
No.
a deputy national commissioner. Lishabane, I think, is still alive.
Yeah, fine.
Yes. And they are readily available to come to court if the court was
Yes,
given
the late,
instruction that they should come.
the late Mr. Mgomezulu said he was going to call the Chaban, if you recall. Maybe you've forgotten. I don't forget.
I was representing accused number
Yeah,
3.
no, I'm
my
just
lord.
telling you.
I don't know if that
Mr.
was said
Ngumalo
or
can
what.
confirm that, and even Mr. Ramosipidi. Remember?
I do remember that.
Thank you.
Then
Right.
it,
Let us
then it
make
means he will
progress.
come, my lord. He will come.
make progress.
Yes. Now, that was just part of the methodology. Person gets arrested in one docket. They accuse him on something else. He gets arrested on the other docket. They accuse him on something else. And as I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely nothing. There's nothing unlawful with that. But further to this, Mr. Sibiya informs me that Zungu, when he testified here, he also expatiated about what could have happened at Tlorkop. I need to go and refresh my memory on this. Let us just put this fact in abeyance.
athi lapho ke umuntu uyaboshwa boshe icala thizeni ngesikhathi aboshwa icala thizeni ke lapho bambuza bampheneke nemibuzo eningi icala thizeni bese bamdedela kwicala lithizeni kade bempheneka ngalo imibuzo noma kade lecala thizeni bembophele eboshwe lona ke futhi umnumzana uSibiya athi umnumzana kaUzungu ngesikhathi kade la ngaphambi kwenkantolo ithulo ufakazi bakhe kunolunye udaba angalikhulumile kahle ngendlela eqondile.
My Lord, so there are two responses to that. So the first part of Zungu, I was not here when he testified, so I won't be able to assist even when that evidence is found on record. So that's the first part.
Athi kunamaphuzu amabili ke abakhulume ngawo ke lana udaba lophuzu oqala la kaMnumzana ke uZungu ngeke akhona ukukhuluma mayelana nalo ngoba ngesikhathi umnumzana uZungu kade alethe ufakazi bakhe ngaphambi kwenkantolo ke yena ke ufakazi wamanje kade angekho ke lapho ke futhi namodaba lo kade likhona lapha ngaphambi kusenkantolo beshicelele phansi angeke akhona ukuthi aphefumule mayelana nalo.
The second part, my Lord, the methodology, I think is misunderstood. You need to have the main docket. That's how it works. So you need to have a docket that is a dilemma, that is difficult to resolve. Then once you have that docket, the second thing, you need to have sight of the targets. Your suspect must be on site, the person that you want to pursue. And once you have that person on site, in the absence of evidence at that stage, then you apply the methodology of identifying other cases that can bring this person closer. But there must be a